Hi everyone, thanks for the introduction. As I said, I'm John. I'm going to be talking about evolutionary e-commerce. So I'm based in Shrewsbury in the UK, which is actually the birthplace of Charles Darwin. They're kind of talking about grandfathers today, the grandfather of evolution, so hopefully I can channel a little bit of that. I am currently the VP of product at Hyvä, looking after all the different products that we have, which I'll come on to shortly. I've been working with Magento for 10, 12 years now. Previously, I was at an agency in the UK. I'm also a board member of MajorS and involved with the Magento Association, as we saw in the panel earlier. And I've got a bit of an obsession with all things orange, as well as performance. Okay, so I'm also very, very aware that I am the last person standing between you and all the lovely food. So I'll try not to take too long. But yeah, let's see what we're going to go through. So first, going to talk a little bit about Hyvä in terms of our company, the ecosystem, and the products that we have. Then onto the main topic, why you don't need a revolution, why evolutionary is what we are proposing. A few performance tips, tricks, and examples. And then going to cover some more product stuff, a little bit of updates on roadmaps, things that we've been working on and are looking forward to. So, first question, what is Hyvä? This has been used quite a lot. So yeah, the official pronunciation, if you like, is Hyvä. You need to put a bit of Scandinavian oomph behind it. It's a Finnish word. But however you pronounce it is fine with us. The key thing, as our founder Willem always says, as long as you're talking about us, he's happy. So just to show of hands, how many people have heard of Hyvä? So quite a few. Who's actively working with it? Okay, decent amount of people. Good stuff. So first thing to know about us, originally when we were founded, we were called Hyvä Themes, but we're now much more than that. So we are more than a theme. We also have a checkout, we have a UI library, and we have our enterprise offering for Adobe Commerce. We also have lots of tooling. We've got a great community building around our products as well, and an ecosystem as well, which I'll come on to. So, as I said, the word is Finnish. It means good, desirable, trustworthy. We were founded during COVID in 2020, born out of frustration from our founder Willem in terms of the front-end performance of Luma. We launched the theme in February 2021, and then last year we also then launched our checkout, our UI library, and enterprise. We've now got customers in over 70 countries, including here in Romania, and we've got 700 agencies around the globe working with us. We're just on the cusp, or just over, but we don't want to chat about it too much yet, just in case it dips again. We're about 3,000 live stores now. We're around 5% of those are on Adobe Commerce, so 95% Magento open source. That's our key area. Like I said, we've got a vibrant ecosystem. We've got over 800 compatible extensions now. We've got 7,000 developers on our GitLab now working with us. And similar number on our Slack community as well, where we do help and support. We're a team of 14 people across, I think it's right, 6 different countries now. And our latest hire is to kind of help foster that community even more. Rebecca Brockton's here to kind of help share the love and help foster collaboration with all of you lovely people. So as I mentioned, we've got 800 plus extensions from lots of different vendors, so I just want to give a little mention of those there. And our key kind of message is that we believe that e-commerce should be fun. Should be fun to do your job. Shouldn't just be dull and boring. Shouldn't just be frustration, like Jakob just said. It should be a fun experience, and that's kind of our aim from merchants all the way through to developers. Couple of other kind of quick stats. So like I said, we've got 3,000 sites now, been growing quite nicely over the last few years. And I think if I just look at the bottom there, we've got, Romania is in our top 20 countries, so still plenty of room for growth, but it's good to see you on the list there. We've now, like I said, got over 3,000 live sites. We've got over 500 in the top 1 million, over 50 in the top 100,000, and we've now got 3 in the top 10,000, so we're growing quite a pace. I think this time last year, we were almost half that number in terms of the total sites, so we're kind of growing at quite a pace, which is good. We're now number 30 in the top global e-commerce technologies on Built With, and what I mean by that is, obviously, we are a storefront solution for Magento and Adobe Commerce, but in terms of global, all-around technology, so Magento, Shopware, all that kind of stuff, we are in the top 30 in the world. So we made quite some good progress, and we're ahead of things like PWA Studio, Vue Storefront, Commerce Tools, and plenty of others too. And if you want to learn any more about that kind of business side of it and the numbers, there's a good blog on our site that you can have a look at. Okay, so let's have a little look at all of our different products. So first one is our theme. So what it looks like, it looks minimal and basic, and there's a reason for that. It's to make it easy for you to extend and customize. So basically, our theme still keeps most of what makes Magento great. So we still use all the built-in routing and layout XML and template files, but what we've done is we've basically removed all the template files, all the CSS, and all the JavaScript, and replaced it with Tailwind and one JavaScript library, Alpine.js. We try and use view models wherever possible. We try and have less XML complexity. We isolate things where we can. We have a view model registry for adding things to template files without needing to use XML. We have lots of performance tooling. I'll come back to that later. And we think, or we've seen, that developers get a productivity boost because we've got less complexity and we use modern tools. So rather than use, say, in default Magento, there's a fairly convoluted approach to making an AJAX request. To do that in Hyvä, you just use the fetch API, just default JavaScript. And again, kind of on that point with the native browser capabilities. These are some of the stats from our theme. I'm not going to go into these given we're on the technical track, but again, if you want to have a look at these, we've got great results in terms of conversion, page speed, all that kind of stuff. Next up is our UI library. So it's a collection of different elements or components that you can literally copy and paste into your site to really quickly get good-looking results with minimal effort. And we've got full Figma designs for these as well. So your designers can take them and extend them. And like I said, in terms of the code, you can literally just copy and paste it into your project, and it saves lots and lots of time. So just quickly run through a few examples. We've got headers, we've got menus, we've got footers, blog posts, banners, more banner type stuff, product listing variations, newsletter subscription, different global messaging areas, modals, and then yeah, you can see here here's a Figma file. Everything there's a full design system behind this, so it's really easy to use and extend. So you can go in right into, say, like a button and see what's there, and if you want to tweak it for your design, then it's easy for you to do so. Full color palette as well. And then, yeah, in terms of the code, you literally take the files and paste them into your theme, and done. And then you can go away and customize them from there, but it saves massive amounts of time. And our UI library is completely free as long as you have a Hyvä Themes license, so it's no additional cost, and we're adding to it all the time, which I'll come back to in our roadmap in a bit. Checkout. So again, our theme originally was just focused on the entire storefront, but not the checkout. Our checkout is the solution to that part. So again, we weren't happy with how this performed in Luma and how hard it was to customize. I'm sure if anyone's ever tried to add a new field to the default Luma checkout, fight it with knockout and all the other things you need to do, it's not a fun or quick experience. So our aim was, again, performance, but also easier to customize and maintain. We're working on extensibility, and we just, again, you use simple tools. We use Layout XML for adding steps or new components or different layouts. It's really, really simple. There's none of the Christmas tree layout, as it's referred to, as you have in the default checkout, just very, very simple stuff. Probably should also mention in terms of the performance, it's, I think on the last benchmark we did, it's around 13 times faster than the Luma checkout, so it's also a good one to bear in mind. Yeah, just a few other bits. We have conditional rendering, and it's built using something called MageWire, which the inventor, Willem Portman, works for us at Hyvä and is our kind of checkout architect developer. So yeah, he knows his stuff, and we've got lots of good stuff there. So we've got nice separate state in the back end, front end just handles the user interface and design. Here's just an example. So this is like a one-step or one-page checkout, but you can do different things. We've also got a multi-step example there. And again, good results. Won't go too much into those now. And we've got pretty decent payment support. We're working on more all the time with lots of different vendors. So if there's something that you particularly need, you're always welcome to reach out to us, and we can help the process of what is required to make a payment provider compatible. It's depending on how it works. It's generally not a huge amount of work. Now, finally, our latest product is called Hyvä Enterprise. So this is compatibility for Adobe Commerce, plus all of the add-ons and SaaS services. So things like the B2B suite, live search, product recommendations, and this is something we're building out for both Hyvä Themes and Hyvä Checkout, so it layers on top. So those products cover all the features from Magento open source. This is just the additional Adobe Commerce stuff. And again, the aim is to provide the same performance and developer experience that we do with our other products. And our overall goal is to try and be the most feature-complete Adobe Commerce storefront, with Adobe obviously starting to look towards their edge delivery services and commerce drop-ins, and the Luma theme not really getting a great deal of love these days. We want to pitch ourselves as the overall complete Adobe Commerce storefront for the majority of merchants. I'm not going to run through all of these, but just to give you an idea of the scale of some of the stuff we had to do, these are all the features that were required to make compatible. We're most of the way there. I'll come back to that in a bit. But yeah, just a few screenshots there. Trying to show Hyvä Enterprise isn't always the most exciting. It's mostly B2B and other screens, so here's a few examples. And I think we've got one for the live search as well. There you go. And if you want to know any more about that, again, I can share these slides after, but there's some useful links and things to learn more. So that's the overall what is Hyvä and the product stuff out of the way. Key thing I want to talk about then is our kind of concept and mindset of how we think e-commerce should be. So start with a little kind of, not story, but let's go back maybe 5 or probably 10 years. And front-end technologies just keep on getting more and more complex, harder to use, to the point that people start to question their life choices about becoming a front-end developer. Magento 2's default theme was an example with all the knockout and require.js, but I'm not just referring to that, I'm referring to overly complex things that might happen with React or Vue or other things, whatever it might be. Things just got really, really complicated. And kind of the real kind of kicker is that merchants didn't really ask for any of this. It's mostly us as technical folks trying to drive innovation and shiny new things. So if we kind of just take it back a step and think about what merchants actually want or ask for, in most cases, or initially, they might ask for them now, but they didn't ask for headless. They didn't ask for microservices. They didn't ask for composable or delivery on the edge, or even that shiny new JavaScript framework that came out last week. But things they do ask for is performance. They want to make more money. They want to spend less on development. They want a quicker time to market. And they want less hassle. They don't want to worry about their tech stack. They just want to sell their products. So, yeah, well, the point is, nobody asked for a revolution. So we're not pitching, Hyvä is not a revolution. We're an evolution of the Magento front end. We want to be what we feel the Magento 2 front end should always have been, simple and easy to work with, but with great performance. So what makes us different? I feel it's to do with our core values all combined together. So we've got performance, quality, affordability, enjoyment. So the fun factor, like I mentioned earlier, but the key one for me that kind of all of those, wraps all of them together, is just simplicity, keeping things simple. So I'm sure everybody's seen this before. Keep it simple, stupid. So let's just take a step back and try not to overcomplicate things. And we also believe that tech stacks don't have to be overly complicated. There's lots of ways to increase performance, like Ivan showed us some great ones earlier. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the front end especially, the best performance is just shipping less code. You can't beat not having as much lines of code to run through. Good solutions shouldn't cost the earth, so the affordability point of view, our products are priced at the prices they are. Like our theme starts from €1,000 as a one-off cost. We could probably charge more, and we get told we should charge more, but we want to make sure that there's a wider adoption across the ecosystem as much as possible. And we only release stuff when it's ready. So we don't have deadlines. We make sure that things are as good as they can possibly be. Obviously, we're not driven to perfection. If it's good enough, then we'll ship it and we'll improve it later. We want to make sure it's got that quality. And again, you should be allowed to enjoy your work. And we also know not everybody wants to be a JavaScript developer building single-page applications. It's not for everybody. Some people would rather just focus on HTML and CSS. The majority of merchants don't need headless or microservices or composable. Yes, it's important, and it is there for those larger merchants at the higher end of the scale, but for the majority of the core, like Magento's business, the mid-market, it's not the right approach. Tried, trusted, and stable solutions like Magento, like ours, are always, with proven results, are always going to be better than shiny, new, unknown things. So, yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. The entire market already knows the Magento stack. We haven't changed a great deal with what we've added. And we've got an ecosystem that supports it with all the tools, the education, the resources. Like I mentioned, there's 800 extensions that we have compatibility with. There's way more within the Magento ecosystem already, and not to mention all the back-end integrations with ERPs and other things. No other platform's really got all that kind of stuff. Okay, and then finally, to kind of wrap this bit up, obviously, everyone, not just merchants, but everyone loves projects that delivered in scope, on time, and in budget. Almost much as they love good performance, better SEO, and increased conversion. And again, keep coming back to it. It's about happiness. So if this isn't how you feel at the end of the week, then maybe you should be trying something different. So let's have a little look at a few performance tips and tricks. So what I'm about to show you is not overly complicated. It's fairly straightforward stuff, hopefully. First one, so there's 3 I'm going to go through. First one, stop treating your website like a bin or a trash can. Stop throwing scripts and code and everything else at it. Look after, be really cautious about what you're putting on your site, especially on the front end. Try and ensure performance is ensured. So, again, this is about less code equals better performance. So any unnecessary JavaScript, especially external scripts, you probably know the ones I'm talking about, all the YouTube videos, tag managers, whatever it is, make sure you handle them correctly. Live chat widgets are one of the worst. You don't need them on the page load. Load them when they're interacted with. And again, other things to be mindful of is just the size of your pages that you're shipping. Try and reduce the number of elements on the page. It's quite a key metric. So things like embedded widgets, if you've got like, I don't know, social feeds or review feeds, they can really, really cause problems. So again, if you can avoid those until they're actually needed, or use things like template tags to not render that part of the DOM until it's needed. So that's that side. Second tip is, I'm sure everyone's kind of potentially launched a site and it's looking great, it's performing great, and then somebody from the merchant end goes and uploads a 10 megabyte image onto the home page, and then the performance just takes a nosedive. So watch out for those rogue images that creep up. And again, this hopefully should be fairly straightforward stuff. So use modern formats and compression, use a CDN, things like Cloudflare start at a fairly low rate. You can use things like Fastly as well. Lazy loading obviously is important, but not on your main image. Correctly sizing images is one that I say time and time again in terms of the image is just too big for where it needs to be and it's just unnecessary. And not for size of images, but for cumulative layout shift. Make sure you're setting your dimensions correctly. And there are lots of modules available. So I'm aware, like default page builder in Magento doesn't actually support most of this stuff, but there are modules available that can help with it. If you want to know more, reach out and I can discuss with you. And then finally, the last one, stop making people wait unnecessarily for data. So obviously with Luma, there's lots of front-end, client-side implementations. So you load a page, and then you've got to wait for Require.js to do its thing, and then it loads stuff. I'll show an example in a minute. But if you And again, unless you're at such a high level that you need like global scalability and all that kind of thing, just provide the data that you need with the main document request. Especially when full-page cache is involved, but it also benefits non-full-page cache pages too, and you still want to make sure that those are performant for your time to first byte. And there are obviously some exceptions, so things like private customer data that you can't include on the main page, or if there is a large data set that you genuinely don't need until some kind of interaction, then sure, load that separately later. But for the main content on the page, just use PHP, use server-side rendering. So, it's all well and good me talking about these things. Let's have a little look at a few of them. So I'm going to use Hyvä Enterprise as an example, but these examples do apply to all of our products, and, well, I'm going to apply outside of them if you want to as well. The reason I'm using this as an example is, one, because I spent time working on it in the last 9 to 12 months, and there's some good examples I can show. So just a few things from building out that we changed and highlight the need for the simplicity and the performance, the benefits it brings, and like I say, concepts are shared. So what did we do? We tried to reduce duplicated HTML wherever we could, and JavaScript. We've used view models in pretty much every place we can. So almost all listing pages. So for B2B, for example, there's listing like grid pages with tables of data for things like quotes, purchase orders, company credit, company users, company roles. They all have a shared kind of similarity. So we've got view models for those, and we've also got them for the individual entity pages as well. Those grid pages that I mentioned, we've taken a kind of an old school approach, if you like. We're just using collections. We're using the pagination block. We use table markup, and we use query parameters to filter things. It might sound strange, but it works, and it's fast. And obviously, there's no UI components. We don't want UI components that's in the knockout type. And again, server-side rendering. It's faster page loads, and it's aided with our layout shifts. Everything's loaded on page load. There's nothing loading after and shifting things around, causing problems. We've simplified the user experience as well. So things like tabs we've got rid of, and we just use collapsible sections. In a lot of places, it's just the details HTML element. If there are elements on the page that you can't interact with without a further page refresh, then we've got rid of them. There's no need for them to be there. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it's just a modern front-end approach in terms of using the fetch API, using HTML5 validation, other things like that. And kept that component approach that we have across everything at Hyvä. So we treat our template files as components that can be dropped in and out. They're not kind of mini components that you might be used to in like React, where it's like just a button as a component, where ours are more kind of macro level. So like a product gallery is a component, or a part of the footer, or whatever it is. And there's also some development tools that we've added in to help save time and other things. So the first example I want to show you is for requisition lists. So if you don't know what these are, they're basically like multiple wish lists with repeat ordering. So when you add the products to the cart and order it doesn't remove them from the list. They stay there for repeat again and again. I think the best kind of B2B example for a requisition list that I can usually come up with is a restaurant that wants to order wine from their wine merchant, and they have the same set of wine they want to order every month, so they keep that in a requisition list and order it again and again. And like wish list, you can add from a requisition list across the site, including on category pages. This is the worst affected, which is what I'm going to come to. So what happens is you create multiple lists, and maybe you've got 20 different lists that you have saved, and then you want to go and add products to them from a category page. Problem in Luma is these are duplicated for every product. So what I mean by that is, I don't know if you can see that very well, but I've got maybe, because this is a hidden scrollable panel, there's probably a good 20 odd different requisition lists that I have. And we've got 12 products on this category. So that means that markup's duplicated quite a few times. So by default, on this particular example, we've got 2,520 DOM elements. If I just remove all of the requisition list elements from the page, we're down to how many is it? Nearly 800 less. Obviously, that will vary with how many requisition lists you have, but in this use case, that's nearly 64 DOM elements per product. But if you imagine if you've got categories with 50 products in or whatever, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So what did we do? We tried to keep things a little bit simpler again. So rather than having an inline panel, we just have a modal. And the modal shared, we pass the product ID, SKU, and the data to the modal, and adds it to the right list. So, excuse me, a lot less elements. Next, we've got the grid pages. So in Luma, these are rendered in the B2B suite. Essentially, it uses the same concept as you see in the admin panel. The grids are rendered via UI components. So when you look at the layout XML for any of the B2B grid tables, yeah, it just says UI component. There's no other layout XML. So yeah, they load after the page load. It's an AJAX request, and you have to wait for all the required JS dependencies. Whereas in Hyvä Enterprise, as I said, we're just using collections, server-side rendering. So let's have a little look at the difference. Right, so this is the video of Luma. So if we load I think this is purchase orders, you can see that we've got to wait and wait and wait. Everyone loves a spinner. You probably can't see the time there, but it's about 9 seconds or so. And then if we do the Hyvä equivalent, and this is on a slow 4G connection, by the way, to simulate the same as the Lighthouse mobile performance score. So you can see that loaded almost instantly. So just trying to compare those, if you can see that too well from there. But yeah, on Luma, we had nearly 300 requests. It took nearly 9 seconds, well, it took over 9 seconds in total to actually load that grid. Even though the DOM content was loaded within 2 seconds on Luma and only 1.5 on Hyvä, there's just a massive difference in terms of the time that it actually all finished. So we're under 2 seconds. That's 9. So that's just one of the examples. We've got the same for the company structure tree. So this is where you can drag and drop users. So again, we've got quicker rendering time, reduction in the amount of data. So when you move somebody, it doesn't repaint the whole tree. It doesn't request all the data again. And again, it aids with layout shifts because we're server-side rendering. So again, just another example. First for Luma. So see, there's no spinner here, but it takes a while for things to happen. And then if we move somebody, doesn't look too bad in this case, but I'll show the numbers in a second. So I want to move somebody somewhere else. And again, if I show the Hyvä equivalent, so loaded server side, and then when we move the person, there's only 1 request instead of 2. You have to ignore the, just skip ahead. So yeah, on Luma, we've got 2 requests at the bottom there, the manage and the load. So first off, there's the manage to actually move the person, and then second, there's a load, a full refresh of the tree. In most cases, it's not really going to impact things, but in a use case where maybe a B2B person is moving on a phone, on a slower connection, moving some people around, that would actually take quite a while to wait for the tree to repaint and all that kind of stuff. Whereas on Hyvä, we've just got the 1 request. You'll have to ignore the error above. I was on the plane when I took these videos and obviously couldn't reach Google Recapture. So yeah, we've got just the 1 manage request just to move the person. There's no waiting for anything to repaint the tree. It's all done there. Can I switch back to the other one? Probably easier. So we can just skip ahead a few slides. Right, and then finally, negotiable quotes. So again, just around the large contentful paint and CLS layout shifts. Again, things were loaded via JavaScript after the page load. Again, it's all been changed to server-side rendering. We got rid of the tabs and just made them collapsible areas. So again, and yeah, there's some slightly questionable CSS. So in Luma, you might be able to see there that in the items quoted tab, the little table, there's not the nicest text output there in the table. So yeah, on Luma, we've got issues with large contentful paint and layout shift. Everything just moves around as the page loads. And again, lots of requests, quite a long time. I think this is, again, slow 4G. It might even be 3G. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then for Hyvä Enterprise, we've got, obviously, things much quicker. Less requests, less time, no layout shifts. All right, so that's the performance part done. Lastly, move on to some quick product updates and roadmap stuff, and then we can all go and have some food. So for the theme, recent releases, we've added Xdefer Alpine directive to aid with the new interaction to next paint core web vital changes. There's also automatic rules that are in place, so when you upgrade, you don't have to go and update all the PHTML files. We find the specific elements and apply this. So this just reduces the DOM size, doesn't load things until you either scroll down to them or other types of interactions. That really helps. We've also got a kind of an experimental page pre-render implementation using the new speculation API. So essentially, this is if you kind of hover over a link, it will, in the background in Chrome, it will actually load the page content. So when you actually do then click the link, it's already downloaded the data, and you get almost an instant page load. That is disabled by default, given it's experimental. It's a config option. We've got something called the JS page registry. So in the past with Hyvä, to add things conditionally, we use layout handle, so we do it for things like our advanced form validation library. And what that would mean was if you needed it on most pages, you might have added it to all pages, and then on every page you're loading this JavaScript that you don't actually need. Whereas now we've got this registry approach where it will actually check for like a regex type match for checking for certain elements on the page, and then before the final page is rendered, it determines if they're needed and includes the relevant scripts or not. So again, reducing DOM size, reducing the amount of JavaScript, helping improve performance. We've added support for MSRP, PayPal and contact support, and a newer version of Tailwind 2. This isn't new, but shout out to Kuba and Snowdog. In our release last year, we had WCAG AA compliance added for accessibility to our theme. So yeah, that was an important step to help with accessibility. For our UI, we've recently just added a product detail page. We've got 4 new galleries, 3 new product attribute layouts, 2 review listing layouts. For category pages, we've got 2 layered nav options, including Elastic Suite support. We've got 2 new mini cart options. We've got an Ajax add to cart. And we've got loading spinner variants. So for the cases when we do have a spinner, which is not that many, you can have slightly different spinners. Right, and for checkout, we've now got a dedicated login component. So previously, the email address field was part of the shipping address step. We've now got a dedicated component for login, register type approach. And you can optionally turn on whether you want to be able to check to see if an email address exists or not, to see if you want to suggest that they log in instead. And we've got support with the latest version of Magento 247. Should have added that to the theme as well. That also supports 247. And we've also upgraded the MageWire dependency to 1.11. We've been working not directly on the checkout, but one of the key questions we got asked a lot was what postcode lookup solutions do we support and how should we implement them. So for some of the key ones, we've done Google, we've done postcode.nl/EU, and locate. We've actually in-house built these as examples that you can obviously use if you use those services, or if you use a different service, you can use them as a base of how to add add compatibility, and in most cases it's not a great deal of work. We've been working on documentation improvements as well. So that's the checkout. And then for enterprise, I'll split this by Hyvä Themes and Hyvä Checkout again. We launched our early access in October with the key B2B and Adobe Sensei, the live search and recommendations. We are nearly done on the commerce, probably about 80%, and we are currently, we haven't seen any issues with Adobe Commerce 247, but we're running more testing and stuff internally just to make sure there's no issues, and we're gearing up for our kind of V1 of commerce as well. For the checkout, we're still about 40 to 50% through. We're focusing on B2B again first. And so we've done things like payment on account for credit limits. We've got a few others to do. Same for commerce. We're working on gift cards and address search and a few others. And again, when I first joined Hyvä last summer, we had a whole range of different contributions from different agencies. So thank you to all of those, because we use those to help as the basis for what we've done. We've obviously standardized and changed things around, but without that key starting point, we wouldn't have got where we have as quickly. So finally, roadmap. So for the theme, we're looking at further performance improvements. At some point, we want to look at page builder enhancements. Again, performance related, but also developer experience. And other than that, you'll have to just watch this space on the Hyvä theme. For the UI, there's loads going on. So there's a gallery magnifier, we've got scroll to top button, we've got an order success page, we've got new navigation designs, and many, many more. We have an internal Trello board with all the ideas, and it's like this long, so there's plenty coming on the UI side. For the checkout, we are still working towards having standalone Luma support, so you can buy a checkout license and install it on a Luma storefront without needing the default Hyvä theme. We're going to be looking into some architecture enhancements, improving things in terms of address forms, how you configure them, making it closer to the default EOV settings. We're working internally and with some of our partner agencies with payment support. The most notable one at the moment is Adobe Payment Services. And we're also working on something called Checkout Labs, which is just going to be more documentation and more code examples. Almost think of it as like the UI library for Hyvä Checkout. It's not quite the same, where we'll have lots of little examples of common use cases of how to customize the checkout, whether it's adding a field or whatever it is. You can just go away, see, and there'll be a mini module that will show you exactly what it is, how to implement with best practice in mind. And then finally on enterprise, we're starting to look into what's needed for the B2B suite update that's coming in the summer. So there's more company hierarchy, parent and child functionality. There's also lots of enhancements to negotiable quotes. We're also looking the other way and trying to add support for B2B for older versions, so all the way back to 2.44 Adobe Commerce and the 1.3 B2B suite. Want to add some tools to our checkout as well. So if you've used our checkout before, you might know that there's things like is customer or is virtual that you can use in the layout XML to tailor things. We want to add the same for company users, so you can create different layouts and experiences for B2B customers. And the same for different checkout layouts in general for company users. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to be working on the remaining features. And there's only a handful left. They're down there at the bottom because not many people are using them. So unless somebody really, if you use any of those and you really want support for them, let me know and we'll see. At the moment, they're kind of they're lower priority. Again, we want to do the accessibility stuff that we've done for the theme for enterprise. We want to add more tests. We're also, can't really say too much about this at the moment, we're also investigating how Hyvä could integrate with Adobe's new Edge delivery services. That's being worked on internally with one of our partners. So yeah, again, watch this space. And that's it. So just to summarize, for merchants, think about what it is you want to achieve. Don't ask for headless or this or that. Ask for the actual goals that you want to achieve in mind. Developers, use the right approach to achieve your merchant's goals. Again, just because it's shiny in you doesn't mean it's the best tool. And if you want better performance and lower costs, keep it simple. And obviously, I think we've got some tools that can help. We've got another talk later by Soren, who's speaking on behalf of Baldwin Agency. He's talking about his experience with Hyvä, so please check that out later on today. And kind of already covered in the panel this morning, but if you want to get involved, I encourage you to get involved in the community, whether that's Hyvä on our Slack and our GitLab, or with the MageWire project that Willem Portman has, whether it's with MageOS, the Magento Association. Just come and help and move Magento forward, basically. That's it. Time for some food. Thank you.
So any questions for John? Okay. John. What do you think about using modules from third-party vendors like Amasti, which are compatible with Hyvä? Is this a good practice or might be not that good?
I guess it depends module by module. So not all compatibility modules are created equally. We don't have the capacity to gatekeep all the extensions that are made, so some will work better than others. Amnesty seem to be one of the most popular. They've definitely had a kind of I think in the past they potentially had maybe not the best reputation, but they've definitely had a turnaround in the last few years. Lots of our customers are using them well and having no performance issues, but yeah, you'd have to look module by module, really. Can't really give any more than that, I'm afraid.
So a lot of testing, right? So, any more questions?
So how much time do you think a skilled Magento developer would take to get up to speed with Hyvä? So he doesn't know it, but one...
I guess it's obviously going to depend on your experience level with Magento. But like I say, the only thing we replace is the HTML markup, the JavaScript, and the CSS. Everything else is the same as you remember it: layout, XML, routing, view models, all that kind of stuff. I was previously at an agency, and it took us a little bit of time. I think the best way to kind of give you the answer you're looking for is if you're starting out with Hyvä for the first time, if you quote the same amount you would quote to build it on Luma, that should be more than enough to cover it. And then on your second and third and so on builds, you should see that development time reducing. But if you go with what you would normally quote for Luma the first time, you should be fine, and that should give you and your team or developers time to actually get to grips and do the learning that you need.